invisible God, firstborn of all, fullness of God revealed, light of the world, Saviour to all, Jesus the living Word, God made known, God made known.
Thank you for joining us again. We continue to look at the encounters of Jesus in the Gospel of Mark. My oldest boy, Noah, well, he loves to play board games. It's one of his favourite things to do, just to have some time with somebody playing a board game. Well, the other night we found the game Guess Who. I don't know if you've ever played Guess Who, but it's that game where you each have around about 20 pictures of different people on small plastic clips on a plastic board. And you have to choose one of the persons to be guessed by the other player. And you gradually eliminate people by flipping down these characters and by asking questions like, for instance, do they have brown hair? Are they wearing a hat? Are they male or are they female? Well, this game was going well. Noah was, of course, winning as normal. But he asked me the question. He said, do they have green eyes? And I looked closely. And then I grabbed my reading glasses and I had a look and realised that I hadn't even realised that each of these characters had different colour eyes, brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. My sight, my vision, it meant I hadn't seen that detail. Whereas Noah's young eyes had picked out that detail. I needed to put on my reading glasses to see what Noah could see. Well, I remember one lecturer at college talking about the reality that we all wear cultural spectacles, cultural glasses. The way we're brought up, the place we live, the experiences we have, they're all the lens in which we view the world around us. In Mark's Gospel, there are two significant healings of Jesus, healings of people who can't see, blind people. They are very significant moments for Mark and his Gospel. They seem to be moments when the disciples take off their cultural glasses and see more clearly what the kingdom is all about. Their cultural glasses would have meant a preconceived idea of who the Messiah was, of what the kingdom was all about. They had set expectations about what that all would have meant. And their cultural glasses meant that they were struggling to understand Jesus, to understand his teachings, his actions. And that's why at certain times Jesus seems to get exasperated with them. Do you still not see? Do you still not understand? But the two restoration of sight miracles in Mark, they're moments when the disciples' sight and understanding shift away from their cultural expectations. And they take a step closer to understanding what Jesus is all about, a step closer to understanding the kingdom of God. Let's read together Mark chapter 8, verses 27 to 33. Mark 8, 27 to 33. They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. And when he'd spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes, and then his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home, saying, "Don't even go into the village." Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" And they replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, still others one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. And he then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." The strange detail about this miracle is that Jesus, the one who has authority over evil, authority over illness, who speaks great words of authority as he teaches, even has authority over the wind and the waves, over nature itself. He seems to have to heal this man in 2 stages. The first stage, the man sees people that look like trees, so Jesus has to touch him again so that the man's sight is fully restored. Well, Mark sees this clearly as a sign of the disciples' sight and understanding of the kingdom. The disciples take a step forward in this moment in their kingdom sight and their understanding, but they're still not fully seeing. Another step, or maybe other steps, will be needed for them to clearly see what the kingdom is about and what Jesus is going to go on to do. This is demonstrated by, first of all, Peter's confession of faith, but then by Peter's rebuke of Jesus. Peter partially seeing more of the kingdom, but then demonstrating that he still hasn't fully grasped what it's all about. Jesus asks the disciples as they walk away from this healing, "Who do you say I am?" And we get this wonderful moment when Peter's eyes are opened, the cultural specks fall away, and he's able to declare that Jesus is the Messiah. For Mark, this is a turning point where Jesus is now able to tell the disciples more openly and clearly about what is going to happen to him. So Jesus says the Son of Man must suffer. Ultimately, he must be killed. But Peter, moments it seems after declaring that Jesus is the Messiah, then is horrified by what Jesus is saying. He doesn't understand it, doesn't get it. His cultural specs are still on, and he's still seeing the Messiahship, the kingdom of God, from his preconceived ideas. And so he takes Jesus aside and he rebukes him. How dare he rebuke the one who has authority over heaven and earth? But Peter does. His expectations, his understanding is still clearly confused. He can't understand and grasp a Messiah who suffers, a Messiah who dies. For him, in his culture, the kind of Messiah who suffered and dies was a false Messiah. There have been many of them so far. He still didn't grasp what Jesus was all about. I feel so sorry for Peter. One moment he grasps something and he makes this great statement of faith. The next, Jesus is rebuking him. I can feel Peter's hurt, Peter's confusion, Peter's embarrassment. But of course, we can all be like Peter. One moment we can demonstrate through our words or our actions an understanding of the kingdom. We can serve the kingdom in an amazing way. We can behave in a way that really honours the gospel, demonstrates that we've grasped what it means to be a follower of Jesus. But the next moment, we are looking at the world through our cultural spectacles. We're looking at the world with our view of the world as of materialism, of consumerism, a world where we're told to look out for ourselves over other people's needs, a world of hypocrisy and of greed and selfishness. We need Jesus to open our eyes to the kingdom, open our eyes to the ways of the cross. We need Jesus to remove our cultural spectacles so that we can truly see what his kingdom is about. Jesus is about to go on and tell his disciples and the crowds listening to him what it means to be a disciple. He's going to say this: whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up the cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. They're tough words. Have we fully grasped it yet? Have I fully grasped it yet? Am I living as a disciple of Jesus? Have I picked up my cross? Have I chosen that way, following in the steps of Jesus? Let's be still and allow Jesus to remove our cultural spectacles. Allow Jesus to give us a true vision and clear sight of what the kingdom is all about.
Jesus, you have called us. Come, follow me. Take up your cross.